All right, hello and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at how to set up the AvaTAUR for VRChat. First thing you're going to want to do is get the Creator Companion, which will end up looking like this. This tool is how we manage all of our projects and we install the proper version of Unity. It's also a way to add dependencies, but we're not going to be using that for this particular demo. VRChat has a pretty good documentation on how to get this installed and set up and everything, so I won't really be covering that in this tutorial exactly, but basic premise is that you're going to be installing their Creator Companion and then using that to install Unity. All right, after you've gotten that all set up and you can see this window here and everything looks pretty good, then we're going to get some dependencies. So the first dependency for the AvaTAUR is the final IK stub. This stub will allow us to make all of our legs move and the automatic steps for the back legs. So this is an absolute must in order to use the AvaTAUR. However, with the exception of Quest, if you decided that you wanted to remove all the IK components, you can actually do that on this AvaTAUR, and it will just run and move based on animations alone. Looks a little less interesting, but it is an option in case you're looking for performance reasons. You may not even need this in this particular prefab. All right, next thing is Poemi Toon shaders. So we're using those for all of our examples. The default white versions of the AvaTAUR actually don't even use this, so you don't have to install this. It is an optional dependency, but the examples will not look correct unless you have this installed. From our downloads, you'll also be able to get the AvaTAUR Unity package. The version number will change depending on what version we're released on, but you'll need that as well. All right, and then once you have all of that, then you can open up the Creator Companion. All right, in the Creator Companion, I won't be covering exactly how to use this. We're just going to go over how to set up the AvaTAUR. So let's do create a new project. We're going to make on the current version, we're going to make a 2022 AvaTAUR project. Give it a name of some kind. We're going to call this one AvaTAUR tutorial. And I would suggest changing the default save location. It normally defaults to some strange location that you'll never be able to find. I do recommend changing that if you can. And then go ahead and click on Create Project. Okay, when that's done, you'll have a menu here with some more packages. I have a lot of stuff installed on mine. Yours will probably be much simpler. For this particular project and example, we don't need to do anything here. There are some things that you could grab if you'd like to, for example, be able to test inside the editor. Gesture Manager is great for that. The AV3 emulator is a more advanced version of the same thing. There's some other things that'll come pre-installed that you can add on to it, but for the basic premise of uploading and installing, you don't need to have any of those. So we're going to go ahead and just click on Open Project. This is going to take a while. The very first time it opens, it has a bunch of automatic things that it compiles and puts together for you. So I'll go ahead and speed through this. Okay, now that you can finally move around the scene and all the loading screens are done, next we'll start installing the dependencies. The first one I prefer to install is the Poemi Toon shader. So literally all you have to do is just drag this into the assets window, let go. And then you'll get this pop-up window here. You don't need to actually double check anything here. It should be fine. Just click on import. Okay, once that's all done, next we're going to import the final IK stub. So that would be this one here. This one's a lot smaller, should be much quicker. Just click on import. All right, last thing is you install the AvaTAUR Unity package. This is a very large file and will take a while to import. All right, that took a while, but you still have nothing in the scene. At this point, you should also install any additional packages that I may have given you. So if I have a hotfix file or a outfit pack or whatever else I've released, at this point you should import those before you go into any more steps. All right, but now that you have it all open and imported, let's navigate down to AvaTAUR, Base Pack, Examples, Scenes, and inside here you'll find an AvaTAUR 000 file. This is the main scene file. You can double click on this to open it. And now that you have it open, you'll be able to see all the examples in here. So we have kind of one example of every color, as well as some quest examples in the main example itself. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hide these icons just by hitting here and zooming that down a little bit. All right, so at this point, the example ones are actually ready to upload. So for example, Ava, this version is already pre-assembled, pre-compiled, ready to go. But you should change the license key before updating it though. So there is under AvaTAUR Ava license key entry, all these X's, there is a context sender that you can type in your license key. So just copy and paste your license key into here. It'll be a nice long number, and that'll get it all set up that way. But other than that, this version is ready to upload, so you can click on VRChat SDK, show control panel, and then you'll have to log in here, so I'm going to do that on another monitor. Okay, once you've logged in, you'll be able to get to this screen on the Builder tab. This is where you'll actually be able to name the avatar, give it a description, take a photo. It does require you to take a photo in order to upload, so I recommend just doing capture from scene to get started, and then hit capture, and then I'll get a picture in there at least. There'll be a bunch of like warnings and things down here. You can ignore most of these unless something says it has like a red triangle, I think it's a triangle, or like a stop sign, and it'll say autofix on the right, and it'll be the very top of this list. If there's anything like that, click on autofix. If it doesn't have an autofix button, for example, if it says like face mesh not defined, that's a different issue. It will we can cover later. Actually, I'll just cover it real quick here. So the face mesh is right here under lip sync, face mesh, and you drag the body into that. In case that comes up as an error, and the error will look like, let's see, it'll look like this with a stop sign, exclamation point. It will not have an autofix button, but it'll say select, and it doesn't seem to do anything. They're just talking about dragging the body object into the face mesh over here. So just like that. And then that'll go away. Other than that, though, at this point, you basically just hit the I accept, I agree, and then upload, and you'll be able to use it in VRChat. You'll be set to go. Now let's start covering some of the how to customize this thing, because there's a lot of options. There's about 30 different hair options, different example textures, body options, pieces that you can add on to it. So the first thing that's easy is the blend shapes. So underneath any of the AvaTAUR examples, I'm going to use the AvaTAUR full as my primary example here, because this one is the one without any options included. You'll click on body, and then inside of that there'll be this drop down here called blend shapes underneath skinned mesh renderer, and you click on that arrow and you'll get a really long list of blend shapes here. You can ignore most of these. They're all for like face tracking, MMD dances, corrected blend shapes. There's a bunch of stuff in here that's automatic. The parts that you need to worry about or need to look at are under customization. So there'll be like face options and body options. As an example, you can drag out the box muzzle and change that over to that. You can change the neck. You can make it thicker. You can make the body chubbier, whatever. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. The only ones in this list that'll get overwritten when you actually upload is the breast size. There's an adjustment in game for the breast size, so it doesn't really matter what you choose in this particular menu, but except for whatever your preference is in the editor and also in the preview. So you can set those however you like. Okay, so that pretty much covers the blend shapes portion of it. Now, I should mention that we've also got a tool installed in the prefab that allows you to copy these. So you can right-click on the skin to mesh render, and there's a copy blend shapes. And if you do that, you'll be able to paste that information, all these settings, into things like the clothing or the hair or whatever else you end up getting. And you can just right-click on the thing that you want to paste it into, right-click, and click on Paste Blend Shapes by Name. and it'll put that information that you've changed, all those settings that you've adjusted, into other pieces of the avatar. This works on quite a bit of it, but only on pieces with matching blend shape names. So if it's an asset that we didn't make or didn't distribute, it may not have those correct names, and that may not work. All right, so now that we've got the blend shapes kind of the way we want them, and you've adjusted all that, and you got the way things you like, let's start adding some of the hair and body options. So inside of the example scene, there's a long list of hair options here. All these prefabs. There's also a set of body options too. Okay. All of these prefabs exist here, but they also exist inside the files. So if you want to get to those, if you, let's say, you deleted one of these by accident or lost it, you can always get it directly to. It's under AvaTAUR, Base Pack, Body Options, Prefabs. There's a list of those there. And then under Hair Prefabs is the other ones. I should mention, do not use anything under meshes. These are the direct FBX files. They will appear like they're working, but they will not actually be able to connect everything and upload properly. They also won't have any dynamic bone or fizz bones, and they won't have any textures or anything like that. So you'll have to do all of that manually if you decide to use one of those. Please use the prefabs if you can. All right, so let's say that you want to combine together a couple different options that you like. What I would recommend doing is finding all the pieces that you want. So I think in my example, I'm going to use the fluffy tail, for example. All right, I'm going to use the fluffy tail. I'm going to duplicate that with Control D or right click and duplicate. I'm just going to pull it out of the hierarchy and drop it somewhere else for a moment. So that's my example right now. It has all the pieces that I was looking for on it. And that's kind of a good double check. So at this point, you need to make sure that everything is in 0, 0 space. So under the position values here, it should say 0, 0, 0. For the avatar, the fluffy tail, for all of them, every single one of these should say 0, 0, 0. If that's not the case, you need to zero those out so that way they line up correctly in here. Okay, so now that you have all of your hair options and body options chosen, pulled out and duplicated so you have them as a separate copy, we're going to start unpacking each of these and applying them to the avatar. So the first thing you want to do is open up each one of these one at a time and go through the instructions. So inside of here, it'll have a set of instructions that'll tell you how to actually apply it. I'm going to go through that right now. So the first thing you want to do is unpack this prefab not completely. So the way you do that is you right click on the top level object of it. So for example, this one says hair dangles, right click on that, and then go to prefab, unpack, but not the completely option, just the unpack option. It will appear like it's done nothing, but it actually has. All of these objects inside of here are now white and can be moved around and separated. So now we're going to continue down the list. So the next step is to open up the window hierarchy parenting. So at the very top under file edit and such, you'll see one called window. Click on that and then open up the hierarchy parenting option. It's right here. That'll open up this small little window. It might be larger for you, but you can resize it. And then we're just going to be applying all the pieces here and then clicking on the parent matching items. So the first thing you want to do is the source root is this object, which is literally this object is the source root. So you drag this object into source root and apply it there. The target root is the avatar descriptor. The avatar descriptor is going to be the main avatar object, so the one with the avatar descriptor script on it. So you drag that into the target root. Next, the source suffix. These two last things you actually just type in whatever it needs to be. So this one would be dangles hair, and then link. And then when you click on parent matching items, what it's going to do is it's going to take all of these objects here. It's going to move them into the proper spots inside of the main hierarchy. So if you have this open, you'll see they'll all get moved. If you have it closed, you'll just see the triangle disappear. I'm going to leave it open for this example, and then click on parent matching items, and they all disappear. So they've been moved into the avatar. Next, step 3, you're going to drag everything inside of here into put hair in here. So this hair dangles holder, that needs to get put into an object called put hair in here. So you're going to drag the white object into put hair in here. Before I do that, if you try to drag the blue one in, so the actual name of 3 drag put in here, try to do that, you'll get an error. and you should hit cancel in this case. You've moved the wrong thing. So drag the white one down and to put hair in here. And then in this particular example, you're done. However, if you have a piece of clothing, there'll be one more step here. Step 4 will be to drag the clothing detectors into the right spots. So there is a section for clothing detectors, and you'll see outfits 1 through 5 and toggles 1 through 5. What that means is you take the children of this object, the contents of it, and you put those into whichever toggle or outfit you'd like. You can actually put it into multiple if you want. So for example, if you want to have 2 outfits that have the same piece of clothing active, you would drag it into one and then duplicate it and put it in the second one. And that would actually just work. And that's specifically only for clothing, which isn't entirely covered in this video, but I wanted to cover it slightly in this one just to get an idea of what was going to be on that step 4. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through all of these here, and I'm going to apply all 4 of these pieces to mine. Once you've done it once, you can actually just leave the hierarchy parenting window open if you want, and you don't have to close this window every time. This will save you some time because the link and the AvaTAUR object never changes, so you'll always have 2 of those properly assigned. Okay, so now that all those are assigned, you can close out the hierarchy parenting window now, and you can actually delete all of the original objects. So you can delete all these. If when you delete those, something moves in the scene, so for example, if the hair suddenly went down to 0, 0 or disappeared or something like that, that means you did something wrong. You need to undo that change, undo the delete, and then reapply the changes that you skipped, and double check your process here. All right, so at this point, this version is ready to upload, but it doesn't have any cool textures. So let's cover how to get custom textures onto the AvaTAUR. Okay, so you've commissioned an artist, or you've made textures yourself, or you've modified the substance files in some way, shape, or form, and you have something custom that you want to bring in. Maybe custom colors, custom hair options, just a lot of different things you can do. But you have a set of textures that you want to bring in. What I would recommend is under AvaTAUR, you right-click on here and click on Create Folder. In there for a second. You can make a new folder. I would recommend naming this like Custom in all caps. And then inside of that, you can make another folder for your character's name. So this will be Diamond Stripe in this particular case. And then you'd open that, and inside of here, make a couple more. So we're going to make one named Materials. We're going to make another one named Textures. All right, so under Textures, this is where we'll drag in all of our custom textures. So we highlight all these, drag them in. It'll take a little while to import these. Next thing we want to do is we want to grab all of the example materials. So let's start with the body. So you're gonna open AvaTAUR Base Pack Examples section, and under Default there is a Materials. So you want to highlight all of these and duplicate them, and then drag those duplicates into your materials section of your own custom folder. The reason we do this is that way these are separated from these versions. That way if I update the files, you import a new version, you won't lose the changes you've made, because yours are on a separate version entirely. In an ideal world, you'd rename all of these with the character's name. I'm gonna go ahead and do that here. Okay. And now we want to apply those to the actual body of the character. So we're going to click on the body, and then I'm going to minimize the blend shape section, and then open up the materials section. There'll be some examples here. So you want to replace, you want to put your versions into each of these, the correct ones. So for example, element 0 is body originally, so I'm going to put my body into it. I'm going to put my eye shines into the second one, and then the eyes in the third one. Now, you won't notice of any change at all. That's because we haven't applied the textures to this material yet. So now we're going to click on the body, and there are some example textures already installed into it. The metallic and normal map probably don't need to be adjusted, depending on what you've done with your particular version. If you've added any maybe like metallic shines or something else, like golden lay or something. Maybe then you got to mess with these. But for the most part, though, those two really don't change depending on models. It's really just the color. So you'll go to your textures, find your main body base color, and drag that into that base color. And when you do, the whole color of the avatar will change. So now let's also do that for the other parts. So the eyes, for example, are still not correct. So eyes, base matte, drag that into here. Now they've changed properly. You'll notice that the hair is not done yet and the tail is not done yet. So for all the other pieces you need to go get the example materials for those. So for the hair, you would open up the AvaTAUR base pack hair, and then inside of here there's a materials section. You don't need all of these, but you will definitely need misc hair. I mean, there's a pretty good chance you're probably using a misc hair piece, and then whatever piece is applied to your model. So in my example, I have the fluffy tail and the medium hair, and those are the only two that I need. So fluffy tail, medium hair. So just highlight all the pieces that you're using, duplicate them, and then drag those duplicates into your materials folder. And then once again inside of here, rename these with your character's name. And then drag those out into the actual model. This is a point where I actually want to talk about, you actually can just drag these directly out into scenes, so you can drag this out and then apply it directly to the model. This will work, but it's kind of hard to tell because you're replacing it with basically the exact same material. So if I let go here, it'll actually apply it. That actually did work, but it's hard to tell unless you know that you've changed it. Also, if you happen to have all the other options open, you might have just dragged that onto the wrong one too. So it's pretty easy to get turned around here. That's why I instead recommend going into the hierarchy, finding the correct hair piece, so for example the fluffy tail here, and then dragging it from here over to here, rather than the other way around. So I'm going to do that for all of these. So medium bangs takes medium hair, medium back hair takes medium hair, and the hair dangles takes the medium hair. One thing I want to mention that maybe is easy to miss is under put body options in here, there is a first person muzzle. This also needs to be changed to the correct material. So make sure that you put the body option, the body material into that. All right, so now we need to actually change the colors. So let's do fluffy tail first. So fluffy tail base color, we're going to drag that into the albedo. That changes the color. For the medium hair, we're going to find the medium hair base color. Pink. Yep, there we go. And at this point now, you have most everything applied. You should have already adjusted your blend shapes. You now have the correct textures and colors. You can just do some tweaking from here to get it perfect. One of the things I will recommend is taking a look at some of the example materials. So for example, on Ava, when you look at her body texture, body material, you notice it's using Poyomi, and it's doing a bunch of like fancy stuff in here. I'm gonna go and unlock it so you can see it. There's quite a lot going on in here. We're doing everything from using matte caps to some other more advanced features and emissions and things like that. Let me get that loaded up. Okay, so yeah, you'll see like there's 2 matte caps installed, there's rim lighting going on, there's reflections, some clear coat, outlines, some emission stuff. There's a bunch of fancy things going on. So you can use these as an example for how to make a more complicated looking effect on your own. Another option too is that instead of duplicating the original ones that we did, you can actually just duplicate these, or so in the very top corner of here, there's a set of dots right here, and you can click on copy material properties, and then you can paste those into the other one. So that's another option as well. I think Poyomi actually has a copy paste option as well for presets that I haven't really used myself, but that's the built-in one. And that'll let you duplicate what we've done on this one over. Whenever you do that, you're going to find there's a bunch of weird things that will happen. For example, the stripe patterning is different between these 2 models. and you'll end up getting weird effects that look like they're in this stripe pattern on the other model when you do it. So you'll have to go in and change those masks and a bunch of other stuff. So there's a lot to getting the textures to look, the shaders to look correct, depending on what you're trying to do. But it's worthwhile to do it correctly. Okay, so at this point, this particular version would be ready to upload and install. So you could just click on VRChat SDK, show control panel, and then give it a name, give it a picture, and then hit upload. Looks like it lost my face mesh somehow. So yeah, if it says that, you can just take the avatar object, drag the face mesh into it here. Double check it's working correctly by clicking on select this avatar in the SDK control panel. Okay, here we go. This is one of the errors I wanted to get to. So it'll say something like, this avatar has mipmap textures without stream mipmaps. This is one of those things that VRChat requires for your textures, and it doesn't get changed by default. So there's an auto fix here that does it. So I would just click on auto fix and it'll do a loading screen to fix it. All right, so now let's talk about how to get your custom version of the avatar onto Quest. There's a couple different ways to approach this. You'll notice first off that we have a Quest fallback example in here. This is a single mesh, has one hairstyle that you cannot change, and you can put your own custom textures onto it and make it work. There's also a Quest prefab that has no hair, and you can put whatever hairstyles you want onto it and use that on Quest. Or you can just take your example that you're already using and turn this into a Quest version. You'll be marked as very poor in Quest, but if you do it correctly, you'll still be able to be shown. So people will be able to click on you and then click on View Avatar and it'll show you. So we're going to cover that particular method right now. For the other ones, just assume that you start at a different point and use these other bodies. So if you want to convert your current version into a Quest version, the first thing I recommend is duplicating all of your main avatar. So just highlight it, Control D, makes a duplicate. Hide the original so you don't get confused. And then I would suggest renaming yours to Quest. All right, so everything we're going to do from this point on is going to be very destructive to the avatar. It's going to remove a bunch of features and stuff, and it'll be really hard to bring those back. So make sure that you do a duplicate. Have a backup of some kind. Maybe even before you do this process, you do a backup of the whole project or something. But if you duplicate here, you should be fine, as long as you're careful. So what we're going to do now is we're going to, let's go ahead and convert it over to Quest Android mode first. So on the upload screen, there is a drop down here for selected platform. Currently it says Windows, but if you hit that drop down, you can change it to Android. It's going to say it's going to take a while, and it really does take a while, but go ahead and hit confirm. All right, now that it's finally converted everything over to Android, you'll find a bunch of errors. So if you scroll down through this list, you'll see an absolute insane amount of errors. This is all the things we need to fix from this point on to be able to get the avatar actually uploaded to Quest. I would recommend going through this list, and anything that says auto fix, click on it. So we're going to do that now. A lot of these will say there is no auto fix for them, right? So you have to go find some change for it. So most of them are going to go away when we do this next step. So underneath AvaTAUR and then optional, there's a whole bunch of different options here. The only ones that are compatible with Quest are the ones that are inside of the Quest category. So you'll have to delete everything below from good performance down. However, if you would like to keep different dynamics, so by default, the dynamics that we keep are the tail, the spine, and the breasts. If you'd like to replace one of those with something else, you would want to go ahead and not delete the other one, and then instead delete one of these up here. But for this example, I'm just going to use the defaults where I delete everything. So we're going to select everything that's not under Quest. So I'm going to delete all the good performance, all the medium performance, all the poor performance options, and all the very poor performance options. And then we're going to check, yep, a lot of the errors went away, but not quite all of them. Let's see, what do we have left? So that's the credits plane. So for the quest version, you can't use this credits plane the way we're doing it. So just what you do to click it is you kind of click on it once, then click on it again until it highlights it like this, and then you hit delete. And there actually is a backside that you'll need to do as well. So move around the backside and do the same thing, and that'll get rid of one of those. Okay, there's something in here about unsupported shader. I think that's because it has to use the VRChat mobile shaders instead. So probably the best way to do this is to go to custom, your character's name, and the materials, and then highlight all of these and duplicate them again. Okay, once you have all the duplicates, rename them to quest. Okay, and then for all of these, you're going to need to change them over to a different type of shader. So select all of them, click on shader, go to VRChat, mobile, standard light, and or toon lit depending on your look. I prefer standard light. And now we need to apply them to the avatar. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out of this window here. Just like we did before, we need to apply them to the avatar, but in this particular case, we could just drag them out. Once again, you won't see any change unless you have a significant shader difference. So I would recommend clicking on the body, for example, dragging all these into here directly. Regarding the eyes, so you'll notice that if you try to just convert the eyes to a quest shader, it will turn pitch black. There is another solution to that, and I've already provided an example material for how to do that. It's under AvaTAUR, one base, examples, default, materials, and then eye shines quest. If you apply this to the eye shines, they should just disappear completely, and that's probably the best we're going to get out of quest. So that'll hide those for quest users. Okay, so now there's a couple more things. So I still have all my hair in here, and if I go to try to upload, VRChat's angry at me. It's because I have too many fizzbones, so some of those need to be deleted. So the first thing I would recommend is going into each of the holders for all of the hair or whatever other parts that you're using, and just deleting any of the detectors. So there's some of these will say like detector. That's a way for me to be able to detect whether or not something is active or not. And for all of those, you can just delete them. For dynamics, though, you also need to delete some of these. You have to kind of pick and choose whatever you want to delete. For quest, you have to have only 8 or less fizzbones. You can't put any more than that in there. And we have 4 that are used for walking. So under the base systems, there are 4 fizzbones built into this that are, you can't get rid of these, otherwise the character won't even be able to walk. And then under optional, there's some that you can get rid of. So these hind hip leveler, tail, lower spine, and breasts, you could theoretically get rid of these. If you get rid of hind hip leveler, some of the poses will look strange on the back legs. If you get rid of the tail, it'll just be a super stiff tail. You know, spine, same kind of thing. Breast, same thing. But if you really want some other kinds of movement other than just, you know, static movement of hair, you may have to delete some of these and use some of those. For my example here, I'm just going to delete all the dynamics on the hair. So I'm going to take all the hair dynamics, and I'm going to delete all of that. And then when I go back into VRChat, it'll say, okay, we're good. Well, kind of. It'll have all these triangles here saying that you're kind of like still not the greatest thing in the world, but it'll be fine. You will be marked as very poor. You have way too many polygons. You have way too many other things. But it'll be shown on Quest. You can actually view this version on Quest. So at this point, basically all you gotta do now is click on I agree and then publish. And that'll give you your custom Taur on Quest. Okay, so one more thing I want to cover before we move on is how to use the optimized versions of the body. So this version that we set up so far is very poor, very low performance on Quest. The Quest user probably can only show one of you. But, you know, that might be enough. But if it's not, and you need to have more performance on Quest, you may have to use the Quest body. So we're going to hide this version. We're going to find the quest body. We're going to duplicate it, bring that down to the bottom. We're going to rename it to custom. And then we're going to put it 0, 0. So on the top right, I know it's clipped off, but it should say 0, 0 position. Bring it back to the center. So on this version, it's already had a bunch of stuff removed from it to make it somewhat optimal for quest. But even by default, you're going to see that this version is actually very poor. So when you go to upload, it'll say, make sure that you click on it and click on select this avatar. It'll still say that you have some problems. It's going to give you some errors here, and it's going to say poor or very poor, depending on what's all selected. So first thing you need to do is you definitely need to click on this auto fix here. This will remove a bunch of the components on it to make it so it actually can be uploaded to Quest. And then you'll probably want to remove some of the other options too. It kind of depends on what you're shooting for. The one thing I want to note though is that this version of the body is a little different. It only has one material, and that one material only has one texture. So because of that, when you drag your materials into this, let me go ahead and do that then. When you do that, you'll notice that the eyes are basically like a static, weird color they're not supposed to be. That's because the eyes are in a different location on this map than on the other version. To convert that, take a look at the other instructions that we have on the creator pack. There's a file that you can use to essentially convert your version of your textures into this. But basically all it's doing is taking your eyes and putting them in the bottom left-hand corner here. This is an empty spot right here that we didn't use for anything. And it's putting the eyes right in this location right here. You can do that manually as well if you want to. You're just trying to get them lined up. It's kind of difficult. All right, so assuming that all worked, you now have two versions that you can upload to Quest, an optimized version and an unoptimized version, and they'll both work. And hopefully the Quest users will enjoy seeing more Taurs. Should be something new and different. Okay, so let's cover how to attach someone else's assets onto the avatar. I've got this vacuum cleaner here from Lindy. As an example, just something that's simple to attach. You'll find that by default, if you try to use the let's say like VRC Fury to attach this, it'll work just fine. But when you go into ghost mode, the vacuum cleaner will follow your ghost rather than following you and staying with you. So things like that, like maybe that's what you want in this case. And if that's the case, then you can just leave it and you're good to go. But there's a lot of things that you will want to stay on your body even if you move away from them. So we're going to cover how to get that attached properly using VRC Fury. So the first thing you need to do is you need to be able to have access to actually modify these files. And so the best way I've seen to do that is you just right-click on the main file, prefab unpack, and that'll grant you access to be able to actually edit the stuff inside of here. The part of it that is that's causing it to follow the wrong piece of you is actually the armature link. So anytime you see armature link in the list here, that's the piece we need to mess with. And in this particular asset, there's actually two of them. But we're just going to look at this particular one right now. This is where it attaches to your hand. Specifically attaches to your right hand. Now, it'll tell you what bone it's attaching to and everything, which is great, but the problem is that's the wrong thing. So we're going to open up the advanced options. We're going to click on this Enable Advanced Link Target Mode. And that'll change this menu slightly. So we're going to click on the plus sign now, and then change it to Game Object. Now, what we will need to do now is we need to find our correct hand object. So we're going to go into, I'm going to navigate down to it with you here. So for the hand, for example, it's under Animation Armature, Root, Hips, Spine, Chest. I think they want the right hand, yep. So right collar, right arm, right elbow, right wrist, and then it's this right wrist holder. That's the important part, is it has to be the holder version. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that into this empty game object field here. So drag that into here. And then don't set any offset or anything like that, but you need to remove the first one. So to remove the first one, you right-click on it, and then just click on Remove Item. And now, when you actually run the VRC Fury script, it will attach specifically to this object. which is good because that's the correct one for the avatar. So you would do this with anything that's in any armature links. So if there's multiple armature links, you would do it for both of them. If one of them has multiple things listed, you'd have to show for every one of those and like change for every one of them too. So this may take a little bit of time to do properly, but it's well worth it because it'll attach correctly to the avatar. And that should be pretty much all you need to do when you're attaching a VRC Fury script model. But if it's a non-VRChat Fury script, so if you're attaching something that's more generic, I'll show you an example of that. So we're gonna just take the laser pen from Lindy as well. They have this just an FBX file, okay, and oh my god, it's huge. So we're gonna take this thing, we're gonna scale it down a lot. There's probably instructions on how to set this up properly for this particular asset, but it's not really relevant to what I'm trying to talk about right now. So let's say we wanted to attach that to our hand. We would first position it like you normally would. So we're going to put that into the wrist, and then we need to actually attach this thing to the hand. But you probably also want to be able to toggle it. I have a built-in toggle system for the Taur model that's inside of the put clothing detectors in here. And it's great because you can just put something in here and then you'll be able to already have a toggle in game to toggle it on and off. The downside is that it attaches it to the wrong place. So what you'll have to do is you have to take this object, put it inside of the toggle. So we're going to put it in toggle 1. And then on that object, you need to add a component. So you'll add a parent constraint like this. And then inside of here, there's a sources section. Hit the plus sign. And then this is pretty similar to what we just did with the VRC Fury script. We're going to take that wrist object, we're going to put that into here, and we're going to click on Activate. And that will now lock that object in place on our wrist, and it'll also allow it to be toggled on and off depending on the status of toggle 1. All right, so hopefully that helps you get everything customized and you can get all your own custom little assets and pieces attached to the model. The only thing that I should cover is that if you want to attach something to a very specific spot, for example on the ears, if you want to attach an earring to here, you'll find that it may not attach very well. It'll kind of float away. The best way to make sure this is attached specifically to that one spot is to, let's say it's a laser, let's say you want to attach the laser pointer to your ear. So you put it in place. First off, disable the parent constraint. You'd put it in place on your ear. Okay, so if this was like a really gaudy earring, you'd put that in there, and then you would need to find out the exact skin weighting of that location that it's attached to. So if that location is, let's say, right ear 3 at 50% weighting, and then right ear 2 at 20% weighting or something, and it's got all these different, skin weighting things. Once you find out what the skin weighting of that particular point is, then you just make a parent constraint that has multiple things in it. So it'd be 0.5 to something, 0.3 to something, and then that's 0.2 for the last part. And then you put in all the matching pieces, all the matching holders. So this one might be the, the ears and the head. Might be 2 ears and a headpiece. And then you put all those into here and hit activate. And then that would allow it to stay attached properly to that one spot. It's a good little trick. Works pretty good. Let me show you where those are real quick. So under head holder, ears, right ear, since we're talking about it. So right ear 3, for example, would definitely be one of them that would be affected. 2, and let's just say it's the head. I don't actually know which ones are for this particular spot, but it's pretty easy to find. And then once you get it all set and it looks good, then you just hit activate here, and now that will lock into place here, but with the offset for multiple things. So it's a good way to get something kind of like partially attached. All right. So hopefully that gives you everything you need, and you can get a lot of custom pieces going and custom outfits. And I'd love to see what people do with accessories and putting stuff on places, because you've got so much more real estate to work with on Taurs. It's amazing. All right. In the meantime, we'll catch you later. Hopefully you have a terrific time, and see you in the next one. Bye.